I realise it's just over a year ago since we last debated high-speed rail as a group. Then we convened to welcome the Transport Committee's report into the potential benefits of high-speed rail, and as a Parliament established early on our shared commitment to bringing high-speed rail to Scotland. The clear vision set out by our colleagues in the committee and the overwhelming consensus displayed in this chamber has directed our work on high-speed rail in the last year. Over that last year, we've seen the harshest winter for 40 years affecting travel across the UK. Indeed, at home, we had 14 consecutive weeks of snow, something we've never had before. And more recently, volcanic ash from Iceland has closed our airspace and disrupted the plans of many thousands of travellers. Both of these events clearly demonstrated the cost to the economy of disrupted travel plans and the essential value of cross-border and international travel to our economy. And with predictions that eruptions and ash clouds will continue to disrupt flights for some considerable time, perhaps even years, we can look with some envy at our European neighbours whose high-speed networks are well established and who have much less reliance on short-haul aviation. The last year has seen major reports on high-speed rail from both Network Rail and Green Gauge 21. We have also established a broad-based stakeholder group from Scotland's business and transport communities to direct the production of Transport Scotland's strategic business case for high-speed rail to Scotland, which reported in October 2009. These reports clearly set out the economic and environmental benefits of high-speed rail to Scotland and for the UK, and highlight Scotland's centrality to the case for a UK network. Let me remind us of some of these benefits. High-speed rail could bring economic benefits worth £20,000 million to the Scottish economy, mainly through reduced journey times. A further £5,000 million of wider economic benefits through job creation, jobs being created in areas close to the line, and through agglomeration. A 3-hour journey time between Scotland and London would create substantial modal shift from air with reduced carbon emissions. At 3 hours, high-speed rail could capture 67% of the overall travel market between Scotland and London, and at 2.5 hours, that rises to 80%. That contrasts with the present situation where some 7.2 million people travel between central Scotland and London, but only some 1 million of them travel by rail. Crucially, these reports in total show that Scotland is central, not peripheral, to the business case for high-speed rail in the UK. March 11th this year saw the publication of the Department for Transport's command paper on high-speed rail, which outlined the then UK government's commitment for high-speed rail from London to the Midlands by 2026, with extension to Manchester and Leeds after that. There is a great sense of disappointment in government and more fundamentally across our stakeholders that Scotland has not yet been firmly included in the plan, and we have to see that we can change that. On business and transport communities and politicians of all parties in Scotland agree that including Scotland from the start of planning in any new network completes the case for high-speed rail in the UK. And although the DfT's proposal makes some small concessions to Scotland, hybrid high-speed rolling stock will operate on classic lines to Scotland from 2026. It is vital that high-speed rail's reach to the north extends beyond these cities with full high-speed lines. There is simply no sensible alternative. HS2 Limited, which was established by the UK Government through the Department for Transport, very substantially with our support, has, as part of its brief, and with our support, that it is to plan the whole of the high-speed rail network. It is on that basis that thus far we have proceeded, as it is HS2's responsibility to undertake that. It is a subject which I have had discussions with the previous Secretary of State for Transport on. He was very clear of what our views. I have, although I have managed to speak to Philip Hammond, the new Secretary of State, on 2 occasions so far, it has been on the matter of ash. We will be discussing the matter of high-speed rail and how it should be planned for in future. We have said in National Planning Framework 2 that high-speed rail is an important part of what we want to take forward, so in principle we're clearly committed to it. And indeed, I don't believe there is anyone sitting in the chamber who would dissent from that shared view and shared expression. I don't want to get unduly bogged down about the detail of actually who does it, although I will return to the Liberal amendment a wee bit later. The important thing is that it is done, that the planning is put in place. Because the failure to bring a high-speed line to Scotland would significantly disadvantage the Scottish economy in terms of a place that's attractive to visit and to do business. But of course, bringing the high-speed rail to Scotland doesn't mean that we alone derive the benefit. The connectivity of London to Scotland has the opportunity to redraw the economic map of the whole of the UK. Benefits to Edinburgh and fast connections to Birmingham and vice versa. Benefits Manchester could derive from a high-speed connection to Glasgow. At the 2.5 hours, the overwhelming majority would, without any government intervention of any kind, be travelling by rail because it makes sense. And of course it's in that context of making sense that we're here today. However, there is at the moment not a firm UK government plan, and this government and this Parliament can work to present our clear vision for high-speed rail to progress that. Across all parties we have the opportunity to promote the case for high-speed rail, but of course promoting it is one thing. On the basis of the plans presented by DfT earlier this year, we're preparing for the introduction of hybrid high-speed trains on routes to Scotland. We're working with the rail industry to fully understand whether the capacity offered by these trains is enough to meet expected demand or whether further measures are needed. We also need to understand gauge issues and impacts on line speed and on other West Coast operators. Paradoxically, when you put a high-speed train on our existing railways, it has to be light and therefore cannot tilt, and therefore on our rails will run slower than the existing tilting trains. We've asked Network Rail to take forward work to give us a clearer picture of the likely implications. We have to consider the matter of the terminals in our 2 major cities, and that is something to which we are giving attention. The correct location, the correct specification of high-speed terminals will ensure that high-speed fits with our existing strategic plans. For example, in Glasgow, how high-speed rail adds to our plan for overall rail enhancement for the west of Scotland. We need to understand the opportunities for onward travel locally and across Scotland and the potential to contribute to both regional and national economies. And of course, when we're in a position where 100% of our electricity is renewable and we are talking here about railways that are electric, the carbon cost of running our railways is essentially zero. There is in Scotland a clarity of vision as to what we want to do in railways. We've set out bold plans for future strategic investment in our rail network. The Strategic Transport Projects Review specifies the electrification of the strategic rail network and structured programmes of improvements across Scotland, on Edinburgh to Glasgow, between Aberdeen and the Central Belt, delivering capacity in the west of Scotland, including for high-speed rail. The National Planning Framework does make reference to HSR as a key component for future economic sustainability. It is disappointing that the DfT has not yet got Scotland on our plan, but that's not by any means the end of the story. People here have a role in changing that. This Parliament's voice is crucial. Let's seize the opportunity to state a clear vision for high-speed rail in the UK, one which includes Scotland and delivers benefits across the UK.